So this is going to be not a response to, but an inspired by video for a YouTube video that I watched by Alan Robarge. He's a relationship and psychotherapist, and he has a channel called The New Love Addiction. So basically, whenever I'm going through something difficult in my own life, one way that I find that I use to cope, whether it's helpful or not, I don't know, but one way that I use to cope is to do research or reading on whatever it is that I'm having a hard time with. So in this case, I got really into Alan's channel. And when I like somebody's channel on YouTube and I find it helpful, I end up doing a deep dive and just starting usually from the beginning and watching, depending on how many videos there are, maybe every single video. So the title of his video is called When No Contact is Not Helpful. And I'm gonna link to that video in the show notes. I just realized I did not say who I am or introduce myself in any way. So my name is Lisa, and this video is going to be me jumping all over the place, probably in my thoughts, because that's sort of how my brain works. So that's what that's going to be. At the end of this video, I'll talk a little bit about what I'm hoping this channel and these videos will be. But for now, I'm going to stop doing that because that's not why you're here. So I'm going to try to stay focused. So no contact in the context of romantic relationship. What is that? I think most people kind of have an idea of what that means. I'm just going to relay his way of describing that, which I'm going to do my best to relay it. But once again, watch his video for the actual what it is. So he said, not pursuing or engaging or trying to get back together. He didn't say anything about social media in this definition. So whatever definition no contact means to you, that's good. So essentially, the point of this video is to talk about ways to cope if you are struggling with the ending of a relationship. I can't deal with my hair being in my face and concentrate at the same time. So I'm going to try this. Just to be very clear, I am not a therapist, so my thoughts and opinions on this are just based on myself, my own experiences, and as you watch this, you'll probably get some impression based on the things I say of whether or not you might be a bit similar to me in the way that you handle things or experience things, in which case you might find it helpful, and if you're not, then you probably won't. So what you're feeling right now is probably a panic, maybe some obsessive or ruminating thoughts or sort of hamster wheel thoughts about deciding, or because if you're the one that made the call, you're also, and if you have trouble with which you probably do, with feelings of doubt and like a lack of certainty, you're probably having some ruminating thoughts about whether or not you made the right decision and whether or not you should reach out to that person. And it just, you could feel like there's some part of you that, especially if you think the other person would be willing to take you back, there could be some part of you that just keeps kind of like chewing on the idea of like, it might not ever feel, it can never feel over. It might never feel over. So yeah, I want to just quickly jump over to why you might be the kind of person experiencing these thoughts and feelings when other people don't. Personality type could have something to do with it. If you're especially sensitive, if you are more neurotic, and that, like, no judgment, I am neurotic. I don't know if you some people are interested in Myers-Briggs personality typing. I am, and I would bet that some personality types might be prone to struggling with this kind of stuff than others. So I'm going to put that out there under personality as well. but then also your attachment style. So different experiences that you had early in life, in childhood, can cause different attachment trauma that might have an impact on what you're struggling with now. So, and then why it's hard for people to understand. So, yeah, I think some people have experienced the ending of a relationship, especially if it was their decision, and moved on rather quickly. And maybe they've moved on to a new relationship quickly and they just didn't have those kinds of thoughts and feelings. So, it's just the reality. Some people aren't going to understand. So, what you might be thinking that's going along with some of these feelings. Because, yeah, I think sometimes, I know for me at least, my feelings can come through more strongly, and sometimes it's just because the thoughts are racing so quickly that it's hard to catch them, I guess, and break them down. So, but if you can do that, if you can sit down and write it out, or find some way to be able to do that, some things you might be thinking, and this might seem strange or weird, but these are things that I would think or have thought, and um that's why I'm saying them. I don't know if I wrote any down. I didn't write any down. Okay. Uh, things that I would think, things that I have thought. Like, I can't bear the thought of never seeing this person again. I hope I hope none of my I hope nothing I'm going to say about the thoughts are triggering to people, because I don't want to make anybody feel um, more upset than they might. But these are things that I've thought, like a lot of grief at the thought of, which makes me like sad to say, because I feel all the feelings, and thinking of things that I've thought brings that all up. So I'm going to try to just like muscle through it. The idea that someone exists and someone is still alive in the world, but they're not for you, right? It's almost like they're not, but they have to be not alive to me. It makes me really upset. Um, like I said, which is baffling to people if they're like, well, you ended the relationship. And it's like, I don't know. I don't know. But that, you might know. If you're watching this, you might understand. So, okay, so thoughts like that. So, yeah, basically for me, the big things are, or the thing that throws me over the edge is, yeah, just the idea of basically feeling like someone, or thinking thoughts that I cannot bear, I can't bear the thought that that person essentially doesn't exist to me anymore. Because to yeah to be in contact would possibly be to go through everything all over again. And obviously if it didn't feel right or it didn't work, there's reasons, but that doesn't make the the feelings of love or attachment any less there. So that can be really hard when you become attached to someone and it just doesn't, I guess, feel like it can work. And over time, you probably will come to have more understanding of why that is or was. But so there's that. Yeah, I experienced the ending of a relationship the way I would imagine, because I haven't lost um, anyone in my immediate family. Um, so yeah, I would imagine that it feels like a death, and but at the same time, like one that I feel like I have some like it can be so frustrating because I could think, oh, why can't I just think differently about things? Why can't I be different than I am? Why can't I have a different brain so that I could, just make this work so that I don't have to feel this way and I don't have to, hurt someone else. And actually, Alan's video does a really good job of starting to unpack how the things we experience in romantic relationships now and their connection to childhood trauma and attachment injury. So definitely check out his video to understand that better. I'm trying to think if there's any other statements that are thoughts or statements that are relevant to what I mainly think. But just, I think that's sort of the gist of it. And maybe even some Google searching and researching to double check, right? Like reading articles about relationships and, hoping something will spark some kind of change or will provide some kind of resolution. So there's a lot of that happening in the rumination. So what can you do about that? So obviously the title from Alan's video is When No Contact is Not Helpful. So an example that Alan gives is the idea of if you believed you could get, and you were being honest with yourself, that you could get some kind of closure out of, let's say, driving past the person's house and just feel some sort of relief in the process of knowing that, they're still there, they still exist. And then, but obviously this, and he talks about this, it could run into issues of, are you being honest with yourself? Is that really going to be helpful for you? Will there be issues with, you don't want there to be boundary issues where maybe you aren't being honest with yourself and you stop and knock on their door or something. So when I watched the video and I heard that, I was trying to be honest with myself and I couldn't do that. That would be too painful for me. And I would definitely be worried about my ability to do that and not feel compelled to, then text or call or stop by and, talk to the person. So in being honest with myself, that was out of the question. So what did I find helpful for myself was giving myself facts and like statements that I could remind myself of, and also like comforting fantasies. I'm going to explain that. Okay, so facts. Facts to counterbalance my thoughts and feelings are things like, so if my feeling was focused on not ever seeing that person again and feeling just overwhelmingly devastated by that, I might counteract that with a statement like you might see that person again, right? Because we never know if we're going to see someone again. We might run into them at the store or shopping or any number of ways. So that's one thing, is you actually might see that person again. Like you really, really might see them again. So this all or nothing black and white thinking that people can be prone to. Yeah, if you're going to go so far as to say, I'm devastated because I'm never going to see them again, then you can admit at the same time that you might see them again. That's, there is room for that possibility. Okay. And that doesn't necessarily mean you're thinking that because you want to get together, but like I said, or get back together. But like I said, just the idea of it, of not ever seeing someone can leave you with a feeling of grief, just maybe even just because of the, the attachment that you had and everything that you went through. And yeah, it sucks. So, okay, so there's that. Here's one that you may or may not find helpful, but I find it helpful for me. Just the thought or the idea of it being over and that feeling so final, I find difficult. So a couple things to counteract that. One is that, just like the other way of counteracting the black and white thinking, you don't know that, like, it might not be over. You don't know what like, nobody knows what the future holds. If you're struggling with feeling like questioning whether or not you made the right decision, but that's coming from a really emotionally aggravated and anxious place, that's not a good place to be. Like, that's not a place where something is going to get fixed from and work out. So to know, even if it is something you would want to try to fix or pursue or in the future, for starters, the only way to really know that for sure is to get yourself back into a healthy place, like mentally and emotionally, spiritually. And then I think that's the only way you can tell, is if and not just giving it a day, because someone can feel better for a day and think, oh, I feel way better, we should totally get back together. If for an extended period of time, whatever that means to you, if you're being honest with yourself, you feel better and that's what you want to do, and that's what you want to do. And I totally have gone on a tangent because I just have. But the point that I'm getting at, to bring it back to what I started with, was you just, if that's a source of grief or something you're obsessively thinking about, you can tell yourself that you need to work on yourself now and be in a good place. And then who knows what the future holds ever, right? So I think those are probably my main two facts that I apply to my thinking. Is I might see that person. Oh, there's a third one, actually. So I might see the person again. You never know what the future holds, so who knows? And the idea that you'll never hear from the person ever again can be devastating. If that is a thought that triggers feelings of unworthiness, right? Like, if you're just thinking, oh, I put so much, and I mean, that's a whole other thing, because sometimes people choose people who are unavailable because they themselves are scared or unavailable, and that in some backwards way, but understandably, feels safe. You can't say for sure you'll never hear from the person again. And I'm not saying that as something to hold on to hope for, but just this idea, if you're feeling unworthy, yeah, you don't know, right? There doesn't need to be black and white thinking of, oh my gosh, after everything we've been through, they're never gonna contact me again. And, didn't they care as much as I cared, or all of these things. You never know, right? And once again, a person doesn't need to hold on, like, to use that as something to cling to for dear life if they really, really wanted the relationship to work out. That's not why I say that. It's just you could use that as something if it makes you feel better. If it doesn't, then discard. Okay. And then what I call the comforting fantasies. I've always been somebody who is like, very, like, and you might be too if you're watching this, because it would make sense if you're prone to more like black and white thinking, telling yourself stories in your head about things. And because I know that I'm that way. But so the comforting fantasy idea for me means that, and this might, once again, this might be super weird. This isn't something, I don't even know if this is something I've told anyone or talked to someone about. So I don't know, but I find it helpful for me. So I'm going to share it. Um, Here's an example of what that would be. If I'm having a hard time struggling with the things that I already talked about, um, I might, fantasize like a scenario in my head. If I'm going to sleep at night and I am just feeling a little anxious or a lot of grief, something I might think, and this isn't something I'm saying I think like every day or multiple times a day or every week even, but I guess as much as I would find it helpful or you would find it helpful. For me, that could mean, oh my gosh, this seems so weird now that I'm saying it out loud and know that someone else might hear it. Okay, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to start with an easy one, which I think this one's normal. If you if you run into the person on the street and how that might go, and you can decide how that goes. It probably goes well. You maybe it should go well if it's your fantasy and you want to feel better. So maybe you see each other and it's nice and you hug and say hello um and another reason I do this and I find it comforting is because it also grounds you back in the idea, because right now you're thinking of all the like just you're just oscillating from whatever reason that it couldn't work to now it's not there anymore and it's like slipping away or it slipped away and like should I try to recoup it, should I try to fix things, and you're going through all of that. So it's also possible that you're someone who's kind of gone back and forth a bunch in that relationship, broken up, got back together, and that kind of thing. So this sort of fantasy or this thinking about this scenario puts you back into maybe what that might actually be like or feel like. It takes me personally from really black and white thinking, really harsh thinking, negative thinking, wishful thinking, into grounding myself more in like what might this be like, how would I feel about that, how would it go, and I get to decide how it goes. But it does kind of let me know to some degree how I maybe would feel if that were to actually occur, and if I'm still and it can be helpful if in that exercise I um, feel relieved or content just to say hello and know that the person's doing well, and then maybe keep going on with my life with the same idea of like, you never know what the future holds, and maybe we'll see each other again, and maybe we'll talk again. But this is one of the ones that I think are weirder. I will picture that maybe I am in the hospital and that person comes to visit and comfort me, and they are there for me at that time. And like, I don't really get much further than that. Something about that makes me feel temporarily better, even though the relationship isn't happening anymore. Don't know why. Or maybe there's something going on in their life where they are grieving. Like maybe if they've lost someone, or they, in the same way need me to be there for them. And I picture that where I'm able to be with them and there for them. And that makes me feel better somehow. So these might not be at all helpful to you. These are just what works for me. So yeah, just picturing, I guess, times when I'm close with and interacting with that person, although I try not to think about the past. So those are kind of like examples of things that I might think about. Oh, imagine what if this happened or that happened. And it just really seems to serve the purpose of relaxing me and calming me down from feeling like I miss that person. So yeah, hopefully something in there was helpful to you or might be able to provide you with some relief um, for whatever you're going through, because it can be really difficult to feel like anybody understands. And people are super well intentioned, but yeah, it's just when you're not in it, when it's not your relationship, it's sometimes hard to relate. I guess these things to end on, you are not alone. Um, Remember factual statements to counteract the black and white thinking that you're very likely experiencing and that are adding extremely or increasingly to the heaviness of what you're thinking and feeling. And if you can provide yourself some kind of scenarios that are comforting and that actually help to make you feel like you can relax and be yourself and keep going through your own life journey and be in a good, healthy place, maybe try that. And yeah, so bye. And I looked over there. Why?